it was Mental Health Awareness Week. I think it was last week. And it really got me thinking about not just mental health awareness, or not just mental health issues in a wider context, but also how, you know, being in the wrong job, being in the wrong situation, how emotionally burdensome it actually is. And just kind of the real need for all of us to, first of all, take the time where possible to be able to give ourselves the space we need, but also to try and find ways in which we can fortify ourselves, because the reality is that we spend a lot of time, even if it's not anymore physically at work, we spend a lot of time working, and workplace toxicity is just probably one of the most exhausting things that I've ever experienced. And it's that part about, not realizing you're holding your breath, not realizing that the environment you're in is toxic in a way that you can articulate it. So, you know, just for anyone else, and I can still remember it very clearly for myself, you know, it's that feeling of that lackluster feeling. You don't really know why you're not in the mood to go to work, but you're just not. It's that kind of everything you do, you second guess yourself. Every time you see, you know, I can still remember years and years ago when I used to get, you know, an email into my inbox, and my heart would start to pound, because I thought to myself, what am I going to have to deal with? And it's just that part about not also being scared to talk about it, not being afraid to go and ask for help, because as part of being a black woman and living under the strong black woman trope, and, you know, no one expecting you to be vulnerable, no one expecting you to be scared, it's just that whole thing about having to be a superwoman in many cases, whether it's, you know, deciding to go back to work full time after you've had a child, and people being like, well, don't complain, you decided to work full time. You know, all those things that slowly can wear away, and have, you know, they do wear away. You think, oh, am I doing the right thing? And it's all those kind of comments, for want of a better word, microaggressions, those, you know, snide comments that do have an impact as to the way you feel about yourself, as to the way you interact with others, as to, you know, the load that you can essentially bear. And it's the reason why I still stand by and think it's a great idea when there isn't, when I say open culture within workplaces, I just mean providing value add support when it comes to mental health. And when I say mental health, I also mean mental wealth, because it's that thing about, you don't necessarily have to get sick, or you don't necessarily even have to be under the strain of anything in particular to seek out a therapist, to seek out somebody you can talk to. Because sometimes it, you know, the phrase prevention is better than a cure is there for a reason. You don't necessarily want to let yourself get to the point where you feel as though you're at the end of your tether. It's about providing an outlet, and also sometimes understanding what outlet really helps and connects for you. You know, a lot of people find that exercise makes them feel better because it releases endorphins, but other people find that, you know, talking to someone helps. And we all have our different ways of coping. We all have our different ways of understanding, and I think sometimes it's just taking that time to find out, what is it, and how do I make myself feel better? How can I feel as though I can kind of, break down almost this element of stress? How can I cope with certain situations in the workplace? Who can I turn to? What does that look like? Fundamentally, A, because we all need a shoulder to cry on, but B, finding ways in which we can support ourselves. And I think sometimes it's not just for us to do it alone. it's for us to do it with help of other people. And I think because we spend so much time working, it's always great when companies put a stake in the ground to provide the access to therapists, provide the access to, it might be a career coach, it might be, you know, I still remember having discounted membership at a gym, all those different things just to help and support colleagues, friends, you know, because essentially everything that we go through, it shouldn't be. It feels sometimes like we're alone, but it shouldn't be alone. And yeah, you know, it's a hard fight to fight, especially when you feel as though your workplace is the thorn in your flesh, is the most difficult part of your day, especially when you have to spend 8 hours doing it all, if not more. So, you know, from the company side, it's like listen to suggestions, because not everybody has the same way of supporting themselves, but it's also on an individual level, not waiting till you get to the point of no return to look for help, but also trying. And we all know that it's so stigmatized sometimes looking for help. And I can even say I had therapy, when was that? A few years ago, and there is a stigma attached to it in having a therapist, because people, you know, you've been brought up to think you're crazy, only crazy people, or it's a luxury to have a therapist or something like that. But it is a necessary part of life, because we all sometimes need help, and sometimes we need help from an expert, and the expert might not be because they know more than you, it might just be because they're objective, because they're not in your circle, they're not a part of your friendship group, they're not your parents or your siblings. And I came to value that. And there's something to be said from being able to speak to somebody without any sort of judgment. You can just talk, and they don't necessarily have all the inside information, but that's what gives you the freedom to speak. So in that sense, you know, I just urge everyone, if it's possible, to find a way to take care of yourself, find a way to put yourself first, and don't leave it to the point where you're looking for a cure instead of finding a way to prevent it, because the closer you get to the precipice, the more difficult it is to come out of it. And as I said, I know it's not easier said than done, because, you know, even for myself, going to a therapist was really kicking and screaming. I didn't want to. I fought against it. And all the things I said to you about stigma, I had internalized all those. Is the word stigmatization? No, I think it might just be stigmas. But I'd internalized all those stigmas myself, and didn't even talk about it publicly. I didn't even tell any of my friends for the longest time, because I was scared of being judged for being mad, not able, unstable, all these different things, and it doesn't mean any of that. So, you know, just where possible, take care of yourself. And for companies, you know, make sure you're also investing in and taking care of your employees above and beyond remuneration, above and beyond education, but also really putting in the forefront that self-care, well-being is just as important as being able, you know, they not just as important, they are the foundations of a healthy, happy person, but also in the context of business, a productive person and a valuable member of staff. So yeah, that's my thought for today. So have a good day, and